Guys, welcome to the First Responder Playbook. I'm joined tonight by Tony Schmaltz. Tony is a leadership, I'm going to call him expert. He's a leadership and peak performance expert, upgrade coach, and he's taught at Amazon. Tony, I'm going to let you do yourself a true introduction worthy of yourself.
I appreciate that. I do the same thing on my show. I'm like, here, have at it. No, I appreciate it. And yeah, no, it's like you said. So I've kind of been leading teams, leading people most of my adult life. In fact, all of my adult life. Worked in the manufacturing corporate world for a lot of years, worked my way from literally the bottom up to close to the top before I went out on my own, becoming a coach and led lots of people. I've got people now that I've mentored over the years that are now general managers, vice presidents. And so it's been a lot of fun leading and mentoring people. And yeah, so now I'm the upgrade coach and I like to help people upgrade their lives, their mindsets, their beings, everything about them, and including who they're being with the people around them. And it directly relates to what your topic is, first responders. It's God, being a first responder, I got nothing but praise for them. And that's first and foremost, being a good leader is it makes you a better at all of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, how did you realize that you wanted to go down the leadership mentoring route? How did you find that light bulb finally come on?
So that actually started when somebody else took interest in me. Early on in my career, when I was in my early 20s, I was an arrogant piece of POS. I was that young kid, knew it all. You can't tell me, I know it all. And then at one point, the company I worked for at the time, they're like, "Hey, we see you work hard." And they flat out told me I was an arrogant bastard, but they're like, "Hey, you work hard, you're here every day, you're working overtime, you've got some intelligence about you, but we need to develop this on the leadership side if you're going to go anywhere." And at the time, I still didn't quite see it. However, they sent me to the Dale Carnegie course. And for anyone who's not familiar with that, it's a 13-week course where you go once a week, and we had to go after hours, and they teach you how to effectively communicate, how to become a better leader, how to interact with people, how to build relationships. And that course, I marked that in the calendar as kind of the turning point. I was always very articulate, outgoing, but again, arrogant. That changed the way I looked at people, the way I helped people, the way I served people. And from there, I started leading instead of just being, instead of managing, instead of being a whipper. I became the leader, and that was the big turning point. And that organization, the president and general manager, the guys who really put their faith in me, even though I was low on the totem pole, kind of gave me the confidence to say, "Hey, yeah, if these guys are looking at me this way, maybe there's really something to this, and I can do it."
Yeah, and you made a very good distinction there in that there's a big difference between a leader and a manager.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Y-
Yeah, big difference.
Well, anybody can have a title.
Right.
A leader can not have a title, and that's what I try to always tell people, especially in the first responder world, is there's times where we've got to lead without supervision,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not saying go out there and just rock the boat with your, corporal or sergeant and say, "Hey, man, I'm the leader." Like, probably
Right.
wouldn't go over too well, but we have to be the person that is able to make those decisions and make them rightly.
And do it in a way where you're ruffling as little amount of feathers as possible. I mean, you're doing it in a way where you're building relationships or you're maintaining relationships. And that's especially with first responders. Man, you come into situations that one, you're just trying to get a grasp on. You don't know what's happening. Some could be incredibly ugly, some could be maybe not so ugly, but still urgent. And you're trying to maintain your persona at the same time you're trying to evaluate the situation, know what's going on, keep people calm. That takes an enormous amount of leadership. And that, I mean, it's that you talk about the power of language, the power, I mean, just the way you speak to people, the way you speak out into the world is going to make the difference in you being that powerful leader when you're showing up on scene versus that guy who's pissing off somebody who's just looking for extra help.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with that for sure. Um, I was looking at the questions to ask you, like some sample questions, and I was like, man, these are awesome questions. I have a real question though. Is I just got my life and career coaching certification in the last month, and so I'm working on my ICF certification right now. And how did you get involved in that? And what stood out to you about doing the coaching?
So my first real involvement in coaching was when after I hired my first coach. Um, my family and I, we live in Florida now, but we're originally from Seattle area. And back in 2018, I accepted a job in Panama City, Florida that literally moved us, my wife, my kids, all the way across country to Florida. And the company I thought, hey, was going to be a great new opportunity, turned out to be the worst place I'd ever worked ever. The grass was definitely not greener in that case. So I went from being a positive leader that I had been the whole time I was in Washington State. I had people wanting to work for me left and right. I was getting promoted, raises. It was wonderful. To this place that just dragged me down. And at one point, my wife looked at me and said, something's got to change. You got to do something different. I've never seen you like this before. I was just miserable coming home from work. I know a lot of people are, but I wasn't normally.
Yeah.
And I was just miserable. And so on the recommendation of a friend of a friend recommended this coach to me. So I had a conversation with him, and one thing led to another, and I ended up hiring him. And I spent a lot of money. And at the time, that was money that I didn't really have, or can't say I didn't have, but couldn't afford to spend.
Right.
But it turned out to be the best money I've ever spent. And about 6 months after working with him on a 18-month contract, I said, this is what I want to do. I said, I've been leading people my whole career, but I've always been doing it on somebody else's accord. I've always been doing it the way the company told me I needed to do it, or somebody else told me I had to do it. Now I can serve people the way I know I can do best, or the way they truly need it. And so that's where I got started. That was back in 2019, and I've been doing it ever since. And now that's the one thing I love about it, is being able to help individuals on an individual basis. Whereas, you're in a corporation, they're like, this is our leadership style, you got to do it this way. Where me, I can go, hey, I can find out what's going on in Brent's head and help Brent exactly the way Brent needs to be helped versus what everybody else around needs.
Exactly. I just getting involved in that domain. It's such a unknown in the law enforcement first responder world right now. I feel like,
Mm-hmm.
um, maybe in some bigger towns, like they start implementing it, but I really want to start integrating that into this space because there's such a, I don't want to call it a market because I wouldn't mind eventually doing it as a job per se, but
Mm-hmm.
on the first responder side, I would just like to do it because I want to make that space a better space, if that makes sense. And there's just such a untapped area for that because we're taught for so long to do things a certain way and not necessarily think on our own and think of better ways. And man, I really want to make the first responder world a little bit better than when I got here, at the end of the day.
Well, I think you're in the right world. I don't know of a lot of coaches that are working in that first responder world. And God, based on what I know from the people I know that are first responders, is the level of absolute hell that you can possibly go through as a first responder. I mean, not all, but I mean, there are times where you walk into just a perfect storm of garbage. I mean, it weighs on people, and it's nice to
Yep.
have somebody God, I really hope you pursue this, because I think that would be a great path, is coaching first responders. I mean, I
Yeah,
know
for
they could
sure.
use it. I know they could use it.
Yeah, and I heard a saying when I first got into law enforcement 10 years ago, and it rings true still to this day, especially now that I've been a supervisor before, and it was today's a bad day to be a cop,
Hmm. Hmm.
because there's just days it's a bad day to be a cop,
Mm-hmm.
and because you either see something crazy or you're involved in it, and there needs to be that outlet to like talk about these things and like talk about frustrations. And I recently went through peer support training, and
Mm.
I was very amazed as I went through that a lot of the terminology in peer support is the same thing as what's in coaching.
Right.
And
Right.
I was like, hey, I know that. And it furthered my belief is that I'm gonna start integrating those into like, people that I work with and stuff, because if I'm thinking about those things and how they could work, I know other people would too, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And people respond well to it, because they need that so much. And, there's a saying that I like to use. You said it's a bad day to be a cop. Well, the saying that I like to use that I actually got from another coach, Michael Neal, is there's no such thing as a bad day. Now, with that said, there are moments in our days that are not preferred. So you may, like you said, bad day to be a cop. You may have 3 or 4 instances that seem really crappy at the time, but it's our choice whether we let those 3 or 4 or 5 moments hang on to us for the rest of the day.
And this is why I brought you on, because that is awesome. Love it. And you're not wrong. Now that you break it down like that, I mean, you're right. I mean, 7 out of the 8 hours could be totally awesome.
But we choose as people in general to hang on to that 1 hour and go, God, I had such a crappy day. No, you didn't. You had 1 hour of your day that was crappy. Guess what? The rest of the day, the other 23 hours, minus the sleep, of course, was a
Yep.
great day.
I love that. That's actually putting in some. I can learn something new every day. That's actually a really good perspective. I
Yeah.
like that. So let's talk about some leadership topics now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when you take in real life to take ownership, how does someone know they're not taking ownership?
Yeah. That's actually really, really easy to recognize.
Okay.
If you or somebody else listening or somebody out there, if you are a constant complainer, you are not taking ownership over your life. There's an example. Are you familiar with Jack Canfield? Wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul.
Yes.
Okay. So he used to do sales for W. Clement Stone, major multimillionaire insurance guy. And when W. Clement Stone was talking to Jack Canfield, he's like, hey, in order for you to be successful, you have to take responsibility. You have to take ownership over your own life. He's like, do you ever blame or complain? He's like, of course I do. I'm a human. He's like, then you're not taking 100% ownership over your life. We are human. We're going to complain. We're going to find, but if you spend your days complaining, you're living in victim mode and you're not taking ownership. When you can take a look in the mirror, when you can get to that point where you find that everything is based on your choices and the way you react to things and the way you handle things in your life, and you see that and you're able to live with that, then you can start taking ownership. But if you're pointing fingers at somebody else, oh, Joe Bob did this, or oh, the government did this, or guess what? You're not taking personal responsibility. You're pulling out that victim card, and I tell people, throw that victim card out the window. Let's take ownership.
Yeah, and that's something we run into a lot in the first responder world, is because people get so jaded, and I'll own it. I've been there before. I've been that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that happens a lot, and it makes a lot of sense that like we kind of victim blame ourselves, and we're like, poor me,
Yeah.
and we
Yeah.
don't own what maybe we did wrong.
Right. Or we don't even have to own what we did wrong. It's back to the famous phrase, the glass is half full. It's living in that glass is half full world. Guess what? You can't go back and change the past. That's over. It's instead of blaming even yourself, instead of blaming yourself or somebody else, it's called full acceptance. There was a Steve Chandler, another mentor of mine. These guys I'm mentioning, by the way, are all friends too. Now they may have started as mentors. Now I interact with these guys regularly. But Steve Chandler,
That's awesome.
I highly recommend any of his books. This guy's written 43 books. Every one of them is amazing. But Steve Chandler said to me one time, a lot of people talk about forgiveness, self-forgiveness, forgiveness of others, and he has a different take on it. I'm not saying I agree or disagree, but it's very interesting to listen to. It's total acceptance. Because as soon as you bring out the word forgiveness or forgive, like I'm going to forgive you, then you're acknowledging that person did something wrong and you're putting your mind in a negative context. But if you go with overall acceptance, you know what? I accept that one way or the other. Then you don't have to put yourself into a negative mindset. You're just accepting and moving on.
I like that.
That is one of the hardest things for anyone to do. And I don't mean just the acceptance piece. I mean, letting things go from yesterday and moving on to today.
Yeah, that's very true.
I mean, you see that? You see what that clock says right there?
I can't see it. It's a little bit cut off.
Uh,
There we go.
there.
I like that.
Because that's all we have. All we have is right now. We don't have then.
Yeah.
We don't have tomorrow. We have right now.
Yep, that's very true.
Mhm.
That's actually why I've challenged myself to come out of my comfort zone and say I'm ready for a leadership role and start applying for these different leadership roles because tomorrow's not promised. And if I
Mhm.
wait, something could happen. And
Yeah.
I feel like I'm ready now. So you're right. It,
Yeah.
why wait?
Exactly.
The time's now.
Yes.
Um, so I really enjoyed this one on here as well. How can leaders stop people pleasing without turning into jerks or control freaks? Because that is something that all of us first responders struggle with.
Yeah. 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 Well, the biggest thing is the power of language. And when I say the power of language, understand that the word no is a completely acceptable answer and a complete sentence. It's okay to tell people no. You don't always have to say yes. Now, I'm not saying flat out say no or hell no. That's ruffling the feathers. That's pissing people off. But it's okay to, like, if somebody comes to you, whether it's a boss or it's a coworker, and you're that person that has always been the yes person, stop that. Make the choice. Make the choice that I'm not going to be that yes person anymore. That is the number one characteristic of a people pleaser, is that being that yes person. Start saying no more often. Just like, hey, it's like if somebody invites you to a barbecue or a cookout and you really don't want to go because there's somebody there, instead of going, yeah, I'll make it, just say, yeah, you know what, I'm not going to make it this time. And they're going to go, why? I just don't feel like it today. It's okay. We spend our time in our minds every day worried about what other people are going to, we plan it out in our heads what other people are going to think and say before we even ask them or talk to them, and that's how most people get into people pleaser mode. So in reality, the first step is make a choice. Make a choice that I'm not going to be a people pleaser anymore. Start using the word no more. Stop apologizing so often, because too many people over apologize. They say they're sorry, and there's
Absolutely.
nothing to really apologize for.
Absolutely.
And second, use language that's speaking positive in the world. I when I was teaching at Amazon and a couple of the other corporate events, I talk about the power of language being one of the most powerful things. And it's how you speak to people. And that includes not just the way you speak in a general conversation, but think about people in general, especially people who are either employees or coworkers or even family. Like I do this with my wife and kids all the time. Acknowledgement. We as humans can do 99 out of 100 things right, but the only one we hear about is the one thing we did wrong. Now, as a leader, if you spend some time acknowledging more of those 99 things, you don't even have to worry about the one thing that maybe didn't go the right way, because the other person's going to be so amped up that they did all these other things right that they're not going to make that mistake.
Yep. Love that.
That's one of the biggest ones. The biggest one is the power of language, but ultimately stop apologizing so much, make the decision, and don't be the yes person.
I love that. I love it. Um, Tell me about the agreements over expectations. What's the difference there?
Oh, okay. So expectations cause only two things, and it's emotional. It causes disappointment or nothing at all. Because when you expect something and somebody doesn't deliver, you're disappointed. If somebody does deliver, then it's nothing because that's what you expected. However, the agreement is actually having that conversation. So, for example, let's say one of my employees says, or I have a project I have for one of my employees, and I say, hey, can you get this done by Friday? And that person says yes because they're a people pleaser. And my expectation is going to be, I tell them I need it done by Friday. They don't really acknowledge either way, but my expectation is that they're going to get it done by Friday. They don't, and I'm disappointed, and I harass them for it. Well, in reality, to make an agreement would be, hey, can you get this done by Friday? And they say, you know what? I really can't. How about next Wednesday? And you're like, okay, that's cool. What can I do to help you get it done by Friday? Well, if you have Joe come and help me, then together we can get this done by Friday. Cool. Can we agree to that? And if they say yes, cool. Otherwise, if not, what else do you need? So it's getting past the things like, even at the household, a lot of spouses or a lot of wives are like, oh, I expect my husband to take the garbage out every day. Great. But we've never actually had that conversation to where you say, hey, can you please take the garbage out by 7:00 every day? And so one of them's getting pissed off, even though the other one doesn't even know that's the expectation. So it's about coming to the agreement, having the conversation. And then once you agree, this is back to people pleasing. Don't agree to something that you can't actually commit to. So if you're not going to get it done, don't agree to it. Only create an agreement that both parties can commit to and finish.
I like that. I like that a lot, actually. What's one thing you wish every leader or high performer would start doing today to upgrade their life?
Oh, that is got to be what I talked about earlier, the power of language. It's got to be the language.
Yep.
Big time. Because I've seen so many people who have potential to be great leaders, and they're in high level roles, but they got there for different reasons, that are just crapping on their employees. And so morale is low, production is low. And there's a couple of these that I've worked with that as soon as they turn that language around, I mean, even the acknowledgement that I was talking about, they start acknowledging these people for some of the things they're doing. And they come back to me a couple of weeks later, like, I don't know what happened. My team's on fire. Everything's coming. I'm like, did you do what we talked about? Did you start acknowledging people? Did you start speaking more? Yeah, well, that's what happened. So that's the biggest one. And the other one is so you've already mentioned it, the agreements versus expectations. Start speaking more positive, start acknowledging, start creating agreements over having expectations, and that goes for the leader too. Whoever that leader is, do what you say you're going to do. Don't commit to something if you're not going to get it done. Only make commitments that you're going to complete, and then complete them. Lead by example, lead by positive example.
Yep. I love that. So I want to talk about this because I was looking at it down at the bottom. Tell me about the ultimate assessment.
So this breaks down mindset, action, procrastination. I've got 5 different sections here. And if you go to that link, ultimateassessment.com, and fill it out, you can rate and find out where in your world you may be lacking or need some help. And it could be all of them. It doesn't matter. There's no harm to this. But a lot of people don't even know. When we talk about looking in the mirror, you can look in the mirror and you go, oh, okay, I look fine. It looks like me. You may not know where you're actually lacking until you take something like this. So each section has, I think, 5 questions, and each question has a numerical value based on the answer you give. And that at the end will tell you, hey, I need to really focus on my mindset, or I need to focus on my motivation, or I'm not taking enough action, or whatever that may be for you. So that's really what that's about. That's about helping people find out where they can improve in their lives, which is all of us can. I still go back to it myself. I wrote it and I still go back to it myself.
That's something very important that you hit on, is that we always have room for improvement in some area.
Yep.
I actually had this discussion today. I'm working on my doctorate in strategic leadership.
Wow,
And
nice.
somebody said, well, how do you feel like you're doing in life? And I said, professionally, I feel like maybe I'm not necessarily where I want to be yet, but like educationally, I feel like I'm knocking it out of the park.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, well, so you feel like you're doing pretty good? And I said, yeah, I could agree with that, but I've got a lot of improvement professionally, socially, because I don't have a ton of social time. Like there's plenty of room for improvement in my life. Things may be going good, and they are, but it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean everything's perfect. And there's plenty of room for improvement in my life. My
Right.
friends right now that probably will listen to this will be like, God, you only text me. I don't ever see you. Yeah, sorry guys, love you. But there's always room for improvement in some area of your life, and you have to be willing to admit that.
Well, 100%, 100%. One of the outside of the ultimate assessment that we were talking about, when I work with somebody one-on-one, one of the first things that we work on is what I got from Tom Ziglar, who's Zig Ziglar's son. It's called The Wheel of Life. And when Tom first I mean, I read it in his book first, and then when him and I got on a call and started talking, he's like, "Here, now let me walk you through the actual wheel of life."
I love the Wheel of Life.
So
Love it.
you know what I'm talking about then. So you're
Yes.
familiar. So did you get it from Tom Ziegler's book or did you get it from somewhere else?
I got it from the coaching program I went through. But tell my listeners about the Wheel of Life because I haven't talked about it on the show yet.
All right. So the wheel of life is literally a circle and it has different spokes to it. And each spoke of this is like a wheel on a bike. And you've got your personal life, you've got your business slash career, you've got your finances, you've got your health. Oh, I'm missing two. Your mental state, and there's one other I'm missing off the top of my head. I usually have to look at. Anyway, what it is you go through and you rate each one of these on a scale of 1 to 10, or 0 to 10, 10 being the best, and the 10 will be the outside of the circle, which is the wheel. And what typically happens is when you're being truly honest with yourself, is you'll have a flat tire somewhere. So you could be good. You could have like 7s to 10s around this part of the wheel, and then inside here you'll have 4s and 5s. You'll be like, these 2 or 3 areas are 4s and 5s. And that's where you spend most of your focus. Okay. Yeah, I know I need improvement in these other areas too, but holy crap, I'm looking at 4s and 5s here. I'm going to put my focus on that.
I love it. And the wheel is so honest because as long as you go in there with an open mind and say, "Hey, I'm going to be honest on here,"
Mm-hmm.
you will visually see where you need improvement very quickly.
Exactly.
And they're so versatile. You can actually apply them to pretty much anything in life,
Yeah.
and it doesn't just have to be like those just basic ones like we talked about because that's what you use usually in an opening one. But you can even apply those in the business world, like first responder world. Like they're so versatile. I love the wheel. Like
No.
I went down a rabbit hole one day of looking at like 30 different like how people apply their wheels of life. And I'm like, man, I like this thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and that's actually my coaching is also my concentration in my doctorate.
Oh, really?
And I am in my concentration classes right now, and we use the wheel in there.
Nice.
And I was so glad to see it in there. It's like, and we had to make like a little coaching packet or something like we could put together to like draw back like inspiration. And I made sure to put the wheel in there because I was like, I love the wheel. It's just so versatile.
It's great. I've been using it for 5 years. I mean, 5 years. It's great. Now, I got to ask you now about your coaching. So what do you have your own coach right now?
I don't have my own coach right now.
That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Just curiosity. And is there any particular coach or coaches that you follow when you're, you say you're going through the ICF and things like that?
So I just went through, it's called the TCTA. It was a coaching program I found on the ICF website. And then I went through first responder coaching. I went through 2 programs.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that because I wanted 2 different perspectives on coaching.
Right.
And one of them used a laser focus model, and one of them used a coactive model. But what I learned is, and I'm very glad I went through both of them, is there is no one size fit all approach to coaching.
That's for darn sure.
And there is so many different, like, you can put your own flair on it, your own style. And man, I'm honestly, I'm still in that stage of it's like drinking from a fire hose.
Yes, it is.
You know, I don't have anybody specifically yet that I would say that I like, as a mentor yet.
Yeah.
I just I'm trying to find as many coaches as I can and pick each one of them's brain
Nice.
because every one offers a little bit different take on what coaching is and how to be successful in it.
100%. Don't stop doing that, by the way. Don't stop doing that. I mean, it's these names that I'm throwing out there. I mean, even though I call them all my mentors, I mean, I've got 100 of them because you're always going to get a different perspective. You're always going to get something different. And that's what's great about this. That's what's great about getting into the coaching world, especially like you said, there's no one size fits all. And each one of us is different. Each one of us is unique. And what works for Joe Bob may not work for Brent, may not work for Tony. And so I might be able to take a piece of Joe Bob and a piece of Steve and a piece of this person and put them all into my Schmaltz world. But that's how it works. You gotta get out there and just get to know some of these people. Get to know some of these people, read some books, take some courses and learn it.
Yeah, I just had a guest on here a few weeks ago. She is a executive coach out of Texas. It's Pradeepa Narayanswamy.
Mm,
Pradeepa, I'm sorry, I know I butchered it. I got my Oklahoma accent going today, but she spoke on like TEDx stuff, and she sent me a copy of her book the other day, and I'm so excited. I'm actually going to start it tomorrow,
nice.
and I'm a creature of habit. I can't start one book while I've got another one open, and so I was finishing the other one up first.
Uh,
And but I was so grateful that she took 5 minutes out of her time to like send me a copy of her book after being on the podcast.
yeah.
And like it's same thing you said. She was like, never stop like learning. She's like, just keep picking up different things from different people. And that's very true. I mean, that goes for coaching, being a cop, being a business person. Like, you can learn in every profession and never stop.
Well, and you said it yourself. You're like, it's like drinking from a high fire hose right now. Guess what? It should always be drinking from a fire hose. You should never stop learning. I mean, look at
Nope.
this. I mean, that's not even all my books. That's just the ones that I've read in the last 4 years or so. And like you, I don't like to pick up another book until I'm finished with the first one.
Yeah.
So I've got there's some on this shelf that haven't been read yet because they haven't made the list yet.
Yep.
But and I also right here I've got like 12 here that are like my go-to books on my desk that are like, oh, I got to reference that one.
That's awesome. So let's talk about your book.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So I've got actually a second one on the way too. So Wake the Bleep Up. Break down the walls, blocking your possibilities. So I actually wrote this originally. Most of it I wrote about 4 years ago. And at the time I was still full-time employee, wasn't full-time I was coaching, but I wasn't full-time coaching. And so about 6 months before I released it last year, I went back to it and I started reading. I'm like, God, this just isn't the same anymore. I'm not the same anymore. So I kept a few of the chapters and rewrote most of the rest of it. And this is kind of the manual for people who are just getting started. This is the get out of your head and get into action type of book. The whole first part of it is all about, talked about getting out of people pleasing. We talked about, forgetting throwing the victim card out the window. We talked about getting over the programming that we've had for all of our lives from our teachers, our parents, our pastors. We've been told to think and act a certain way by the mainstream media, by everybody. So it's a little bit of everything. And there's action stuff, there's business stuff. Man, it's just an all-around book.
That's awesome. Where can they get it at?
Everyone can get it on Amazon. Just search Tony Schmaltz or Wake the Bleep Up, and you can find it there.
And I'm going to put a link in the episode notes for your assessment and your book and your website.
Awesome.
So everybody will be able to find it there pretty quickly.
Soon, before the end of the year, my next one will be coming out, and that's the Hitchhiker's Guide to Leadership. So
I like that title. That's actually an awesome title.
Yeah. So because I've had so much, even in that first book, there's so much of it that leadership I'm so passionate about. I was like, okay, everyone, all my colleagues, all my friends, I go to coaching schools and programs, and they're all like, you're always talking about leadership. Why don't you write your next book about that? I'm like, okay, all right. They didn't really have to twist my arm. I was already all in.
That's awesome. So if anybody sees you on here, what's your actual website to where they can get in contact with you if they want to book you for speaking or coaching? How can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, go to my website, which is tonyschmaltz.com, and all one word. And there's all kinds of free stuff on there. There's videos, there's testimonials, there's links to wherever you want to go. To my show as well, which is the Wake the Bleep Up show.
Okay. I guess I missed that. I did not know you had a show.
Absolutely.
Where can you find that at?
That you can find on any platform. That is literally on any major podcast platform, and it's good. It's a I kind of let that thing roll. I schedule people for up to 2 hours, and I just go. And sometimes we make it 45 minutes. Sometimes, hey, I've had some go over 2 hours. It's just a lot of fun conversation.
Well, I'm a police officer and I have a lot of drive time and I love podcasts. So I'm going to follow that right now.
Awesome.
And to be honest with you, that's how I got into podcasting.
Yeah.
I love listening to podcasts because I drive around.
Right.
That's what I do.
Right.
And, I will never encourage someone to not listen to podcasts because there's literally a podcast out there for everybody.
I know. And that's the challenge. The challenge is trying to get, because I love to read and I love to listen to those too, but there's only so much time in the day to be able to listen to these. It's like, because some of the shows, some of the shows you listen to, they're a half an hour. Other ones, like if you listen to Joe Rogan, they go 3 hours. You're like, holy crap, I'm stuck.
Yep, absolutely. Tony, I want to end the night on one question for you.
All right.
If you had to pick, besides the language, what's one thing you would tell somebody that wants to be a good leader?
I would say definitely the action. And what I mean by the action is doing what you say you're going to do. I mean, that is being your word. I mean, not just how you speak, like you said, not just how you speak, but being your word is probably they're probably both up there at the top, but it is the way to gain the respect of the people around you, to truly lead by example. When you tell somebody, hey, I'm going to, like in the law enforcement world, if you tell a co-officer, hey, I'm going to make sure and run this route by 7 p.m. and then it's 7:15, well, how can they count on you?
Yep.
Do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it. I have a colleague of mine, also quasi mentor of mine, Devin Bandison. He laid a challenge out for me. I was at one of his workshops and him and I coached together a little bit after. He said, I am the most committed person you'll ever meet. He's like, I would literally have to be in the hospital with something major happening for me not to make a phone call, not to make an appointment, not to show up, not to do this. He's like, and if anybody can prove to me they're more committed than me, then I will work with them for free. I'm like, wow. And this guy charges $100,000 a year. So,
Wow.
I'm like, that's a bold statement. And I'm like, and so somebody asked me, well, have you met that commitment? I'm like, I'm not even trying. That's a good challenge to go by. I'm like, yeah, I mean, I believe in paying for value. So, I mean, if I hire the guy, I'm going to pay him, but I'm not like, I'm taking it as a challenge. Hell yeah. I want to be that committed. And everyone that knows this guy knows they can count on him. When he says he's going to do something, he does it. And that is the one thing I would say outside of the power language. When you say you're going to do something, do it.
Love it. Guys, take the assessment, check his book out, listen to his show, because I know all the first responders got plenty of time driving around. Guys, Tony, it's been my pleasure. Thanks for coming on. And I'm going to order me a copy of the book tonight, and I'm going to follow the podcast.
Absolutely.
Tony, have a great night.
Thanks a lot, Brent.
See you.